I did 8 years in the military, which means I spent a good chunk of my youth practicing for catastrophes that everyone else files under that'll never happen right next to. I'll start saving money next month. We ran nuclear response drills that were equal parts science, panic management, and learning how fast human beings can make bad decisions when a loud noise tells them to. So I'm going to give you the version civilians rarely hear. The first hour after a nuclear event is not about being brave, not about being noble, and definitely not about going viral with a heroic live stream. It's about doing a few ugly, unglamorous things fast, because the laws of physics do not negotiate with your feelings. Here's the first lie modern life taught you. My basement is my safe spot. That's adorable. That's like saying, if the building catches fire, I'm going to hide in the chimney because it's made of brick. Most residential basements are not bunkers. They're storage rooms with a personality disorder. They usually have ground-level windows, thin foundation walls, and one main way out. One exit. One. So if debris drops into the stairwell or the structure shifts, congratulations, you've upgraded from homeowner to buried artifact. And the part nobody loves to talk about, fallout doesn't need a red carpet entrance. It can drift in through window wells, floor drains, and all those little gaps your house has because it was built with the optimistic assumption that the worst weather you'd ever see is a mildly rude thunderstorm. When we trained, the goal wasn't go down, it was go inward. You want to put mass between you and the outside world in every direction, not just above your head. The sweet spot, when you have options, is an interior room that's not hugging the exterior wall sidily on a middle floor in a multi-story building. Bathrooms, closets, hallways that don't share walls with the outdoors. Why? Because you want material around you, above, below, and on all sides. A central bathroom on the second floor can beat a basement in a lot of real situations because the basement often has weak points and escape problems. Think less cozy bunker, more concrete box with surprise vents. This isn't superstition, it's math. Radiation intensity drops hard with distance, and shielding matters even more than people want to admit. That inverse square reality basically means every extra bit of distance helps, but solid, dense stuff helps a lot faster. Concrete, brick, books, waterboarding, heavy things that don't get enough love in influencer culture. If you're stuck in a typical house and you don't have a multi-story fortress like some kind of medieval landlord, you still do the inward move. Pick an interior bathroom or closet on the ground floor, farthest from windows, and start turning your home into the world's saddest DIY shelter. Drag furniture, stack dense items against walls. If you have a bathtub, fill it. Not because you're planning a relaxing end-of-the-world spa day, but because water is heavy shielding and an emergency resource. Modern society worships aesthetic. But in this moment, you worship dense, and you do it fast. Because time is a predator in this scenario. You might only have minutes before the shockwave becomes your problem, and not long after that, fallout becomes your future. This is not the moment to wander around your house doing a slow emotional montage like you're in a prestige drama. This is the moment to move with purpose, even if you're terrified, because fear is normal and physics is undefeated. Now here's the second thing people get wrong. They obsess over radiation like it's the first monster through the door, when the more immediate threat is your windows. Windows are not natural light anymore. They are pre-cut shrapnel waiting for a reason. If there's a flash and you see it, your first job is to stop feeding your eyeballs into it like a moth with student loans. Turn away immediately. Drop, cover your eyes. That bright pulse can injure vision and ignite flammable stuff from far away, and it does not care whether your curtains match your couch. A few seconds later, the shockwave arrives. And this is where people die while thinking they're safe. Glass doesn't politely crack like in movies. It explodes inward. It becomes a fast, horizontal spray of tiny knives. And here's the insult on top of the injury. It might not even come from the direction you expect. Shockwaves reflect off buildings and terrain. They bounce, they wrap. So being not facing the blast is not a strategy. That's a vibe. When the alert hits, you don't check which side is safest. You get away from all windows, every one of them. If you can't get to an interior room in time, then you get low below window level behind something solid. A desk, a counter, a thick interior wall, anything with mass between your body and the glass. People waste time trying to board up windows like they're preparing for a polite hurricane. You don't have that time. Your best defense is distance from glass and a low profile. And after the first wave hits, don't pop up immediately like a cartoon character checking if the coast is clear. There can be a vacuum effect and debris movement right after. Stay down for a bit and let the violence finish its tantrum. Third mistake, and this one is painfully modern. Your phone will betray you. Not because it's evil, because it's predictable. The second an alert goes off, civilians do what they've been trained to do by years of apps. They grab the glowing rectangle and start searching for comfort. They call family. They open social media. They look for updates. And in every simulation I've ever seen, that instinct kills time you do not have. Networks overload fast. Towers get slammed. Your call either won't go through or it will. And then you'll be standing near a window having the most emotional conversation of your life while the situation outside gets worse by the minute. Meanwhile, social media becomes a chaos blender. Fake evacuation routes, fake all-clear messages, panic clips, conspiracy threads, and that one guy insisting it's not that bad because he watched half a documentary once. Your brain, under stress, doesn't handle information like a genius detective. It tunnels. It clings to the loudest thing. It freezes or thrashes. Psychologists call it cognitive overload and tunnel vision. Regular people call it, I don't know what to do, so I'm doom scrolling. Military logic is colder, but it works. Turn the phone off. Not silent. Off. Save power. Save attention. Your battery and your focus are resources now, and you're spending them like a rich kid at a mall. If you have people you love, you should already have a plan, a rally point, a fallback contact out of the area, something simple everyone knows. If you don't have that plan, the first hour is not when you invent it by panic calling everyone you've ever hugged. Hard truth. During the first hour, you can't meaningfully help anyone who isn't physically close enough to touch. Trying to rescue people remotely just risks you joining them in disaster. If you have a battery-powered radio, that's different. That's not for entertainment. That's for instructions. You listen briefly for official emergency broadcasts, you write down key info, and you turn it off again. You're collecting facts, not marinating in noise. This isn't the time for 20 open tabs and a live reaction video. This is the time for a short intake of signal, then action. Now we get to the part everyone misunderstands because movies train them wrong. The blast isn't always when most people die. The deadliest period, in many scenarios, is the window after when people think the danger is over and they run outside to do something heroic, impulsive, or tragically unnecessary. Fallout takes time to arrive and settle. Depending on distance and weather, you may have a short window often measured in tens of minutes between the initial event and the moment radioactive particles begin settling in dangerous concentrations. This is the trap window. This is when your instincts will start screaming, go, check, run, find family, drive away. And this is when the environment punishes that instinct. What you do instead is aggressively boring. You stay inside and you seal your shelter space as soon as you can. Not after you look out the window. Not after you step onto the porch to see what happened. Not after you yell across the street. Immediately. Fallout is not a ghost that seeps through walls like a horror movie. It's dust. Heavy, contaminated dust. It gets in through gaps under doors, around frames, vents, cracks. So you stuff those gaps. Towels, clothing, tape if you have it. Anything that reduces airflow paths from outside into your shelter room. You are not creating a magical airtight vault. You are reducing the amount of radioactive particulate that gets inside and onto you. That reduction matters a lot. And here's an extra skill most people ignore until it's too late. Set up a dirty edge and a clean core in your mind, even if you can't do it perfectly. The area near the entry is where you treat the outside world as contaminated. The interior is where you try to keep things clean. This is basic disaster response thinking. Contamination control isn't about perfection. It's about limiting spread. The average person wants an absolute, answer safe or unsafe. Reality gives you gradients. Your job is to push the gradient in your favor. If you are outside when fallout starts to settle, the danger multiplies because you're not just near it, you're wearing it and breathing it. That dust on your skin and clothes becomes a slow, constant exposure source. That dust in your lungs becomes a personal problem you can't simply wash away later. So the first hours are critical. The most selfless thing you can do for anyone is survive long enough to be useful afterward, because nobody gets saved by a second casualty. And yes, this part sounds cruel. You don't open the door for people once you're sealed unless you are absolutely forced by an immediate, undeniable threat. The apocalypse doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards correct timing. In that moment, your shelter is not a community center. It's a life raft. Somewhere out there, a TikToker is going to try to film the sky and caption it, "Point of view, Monday energy." That's fine. Let natural selection do its unpaid internship. You, on the other hand, are going to do the quiet, unglamorous work. Get inward. Get low. Shut the noise off. Seal your space. And prepare to outlast the first hour, because if you survive the first hour, you get to play the next level. If you don't, you become part of the scenery. Once you're sealed in, the next enemy isn't dramatis, it's logistics. Modern life trained you to think survival is about gear hauls and aesthetic bug-out bags. Reality says survival is about boring resources, managed in the right order, while your nervous system begs you to do something reckless. This is where most people lose the plot. They start thinking about food like they're planning a camping trip. Food matters, yes, but not the way your pantry prepper fantasies suggest. In the early stage, water is the real currency, and timing is the part nobody respects until the faucet coughs and dies. The moment you have your shelter space selected before, you fully commit to sitting down and trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. You fill every container you can. Bathtub, sinks, pots, bottles, buckets, anything that holds liquid without immediately leaking like a political promise. You do this quickly because municipal water pressure can disappear fast. Infrastructure gets damaged, pumps lose power, authorities may shut systems to protect the network from contamination. And suddenly, your infinite clean water subscription ends with no warning and no customer service line. That bathtub isn't just drinking water. It's for rinsing contamination off skin, flushing waste if you're stuck inside for days, cooling burns, cleaning wounds, and keeping your body functional while the outside world is busy being radioactive confetti. And no, you do not waste time alphabetizing canned goods like you're doing apocalyptic home organization content. You grab whatever is near and calorie-dense and shelf-stable, and you bring it into your shelter zone. Cans, dry foods, anything that doesn't need refrigeration. The point is not culinary joy. The point is continuity of life. Your body can go a surprisingly long time without food. It cannot negotiate with dehydration. In a crisis, you prioritize what kills you fastest. That's not pessimism, it's triage. Here's one extra piece of practical reality. If you fill containers and the water suddenly looks brown, oily, or smells like chemicals, stop trusting it. That can signal system contamination or infrastructure damage. Use what you captured early and treat anything questionable as a hazard. In disasters, people get sick not just from the event, but from desperation-driven shortcuts. Your immune system does not get stronger because you really needed it. Now, you're going to want information. Your brain will crave reassurance. This is where psychology becomes as important as science. Under extreme stress, people time collapse minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like minutes. And you start making decisions based on emotion rather than sequence. So you impose sequence. You make yourself do short, structured actions. If you have a radio, you check it briefly, write down the essentials, then turn it off again. You are not consuming content. You are collecting directives. If you can't write, repeat the key facts out loud to yourself like you're memorizing a code. It sounds ridiculous, but it anchors your mind. A calm brain is a survival tool. A frantic brain is an enemy you carry into the shelter with you. And now we get to the harsh part. That instinct to run outside and look for people. That instinct has killed more civilians in scenarios than the initial blast itself. The fallout window is the trap door. People think, the big boom already happened, so the worst must be over. That's how humans think. We see the dramatic event as the main event. But Fallout is the quiet sequel that outperforms at the box office. It settles. It clings. It contaminates. It turns the air and surfaces into a slow exposure source, and the only way to beat it is to not participate. So you stay put. You stay sealed. You don't open the door because you heard shouting. You don't open the door because you feel guilty. You don't open the door because you want to feel like a hero in the first hour of a situation where heroism is mostly just volunteering to die earlier. I know how brutal that sounds. But this isn't a morality play. It's an environment that punishes exposure. And your first obligation is to remain alive. You can't help anyone if you become another person needing help. Now, because reality enjoys exceptions, there is one category where the stay inside rule gets overruled. If your shelter becomes actively more dangerous than the outside radiation exposure, you move. That means obvious immediate threats. You smell gas, you see fire spreading toward you, the building is collapsing, or structural damage is turning your safe room into a future headline. In that case, staying inside can kill you faster than the fallout would. So you leave, but you leave like you're crossing a contaminated workspace, not like you're late for school. You cover your mouth and nose with a damp cloth if you can, not because it blocks radiation gamma, doesn't care about your wet t-shirt butt, because it can reduce inhalation of particulate dust. Multiple layers are better than one. You cover skin, long sleeves, pants, gloves if you have them. Fallout contamination is largely a surface problem at first. Keep it off your body and out of your lungs as much as you can, and you buy yourself time. And here's the part people mess up. They run. Running is the emotional choice. Running kicks up dust and increases your breathing rate, which increases how much contamination you inhale. You move quickly, but controlled. Like you're leaving a building with smoke and debris, rather than sprinting through a cloud of invisible bad decisions. You head to the nearest intact structure that offers mass and an interior space away from windows. A neighbor's house, a commercial building, anything solid. Bigger, denser buildings tend to be better shielding than flimsy residential structures. All else equal, because mass is your friend even when it's ugly. When you enter the new shelter, you treat yourself like a contaminated object, because you might be. You strip off the outer layer of clothing as soon as possible and leave it near the entry area, away from your main shelter space. Clothing can carry dust, and dust is the problem. If you have water, rinse exposed skin hands. Face thin, pat dry. Don't aggressively wipe like you're scrubbing a stain, because wiping can spread particles across your skin. Controlled, minimal spreading is the goal. Then you seal again, and you stop moving unless forced. And if you're ever stuck deciding whether to stay or go, ask the only question that matters in that moment. Is the immediate threat inside greater than the radiation and contamination threat outside? If yes, you move. If no, you stay. The worst thing you can do is bounce back and forth, opening doors, exposing yourself repeatedly, and turning one dangerous decision into 5. Now, let's tie the whole first hour together, because this is the part where people panic and forget sequence. You have a short time to get out of the window and glass death zone and into an interior space. You have a short time to turn your environment into shielding using dense materials and positioning. You have a short time to capture water before modern infrastructure taps out. Then you have a longer time where discipline is the main survival skill. Stay sealed, stay quiet, manage information carefully, and resist every instinct modern life installed in you to constantly check, share, and react. This is why phones are such a problem. Your phone trains you to perform your anxiety publicly. It trains you to announce, to seek validation, to refresh for updates like the universe owes you reassurance. In a nuclear scenario, that behavior isn't just cringe, it's lethal. The first hour is not about being connected. It's about being protected. Survive the first hour and you've done the hardest psychological part. You didn't get baited into the kill window. After that, you still have problems radiation, decay timelines, sanitation, ventilation trade-offs, medical triage, the slow reality of rationing and morale, but those are problems you can solve if you are alive to solve them. The world outside will be chaos, and your instincts will scream to act. But the correct action, most of the time, is restraint. Because the truth nobody wants on a motivational poster is this. The best thing you can do for the people you care about in the first hour is not to be a tragic story. It's to be a survivor. Then you survive the first day. Then you survive the first week. And only after that do we start talking about what comes next, because what comes next only belongs to the people who didn't let modern habits and movie logic get them killed in the opening scene.